So one of the things I focused on in terms of personal strategy is return on time. We are brilliant at return on capital, return on assets, return on equity, return on investment, but we never focus on time, right? Which is actually the most valuable currency. How do we spend our time? And what's the return on the time that I've invested in?
Hello, and a very warm welcome to Be Brave. Thank you for joining me on this journey and coming into our transformation arena. I'm all about having conversations about the disruption, the messiness, the unpredictability that comes with this journey of life, business, career, corporate journey. And today we will be unpacking all of that in our Be Brave conversation for you, the change makers, those who are curious, and those of you who are courageous enough to unpack and travel a path of bravery. Today, in our conversation, I am joined by a globally respected strategist, advisor, and thought leader known for helping organizations navigate complexity, disruption, and change. He's the CEO of The Strategist, a firm that designs competitive future strategies and immersive executive experience for companies and governments worldwide. Dr. Abdullah Verachia.
Thank you so much, Kafil. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you and love that you're doing the series. I think it's so important and so needed. And I love that you speak about the fact that it's a messy world. We often glamorize that the story and the path to success is this easy, rosy tinted picture. And it's not, as you beautifully put.
It really isn't, Abdullah. It really isn't. So this is such a joy. I met you many years ago. I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Attending the Anglo-American Young Communicator Awards. I still remember you were chairing and facilitating the competition. I was representing my school. And let's go back to that moment.
Sure.
Why were you doing that? Why? What was the intention behind that?
Sure. So exactly like you, I participated in a youth program that was the Model United Nations that fundamentally impacted my life. It took me on my first international trip to the United Nations in New York. It got me to learn about debating and public speaking. And so when I got to university, one of the girls that I met on the program, Nobisa and Mayema and I, she was from the Eastern Cape. I was from Mpumalanga. We came together on this program. And in our first year of university, we said, this program impacted us. How do we continue to give back? And so we created this youth organization called the Collective Genius. And in the process, we ran many programs, including the Anglo-American Young Communicator Awards. And we started designing and running and implementing these programs that have impacted hundreds of thousands of lives. And it's great to then connect so many years later, the two of us now doing work in the corporate environment, but having understood the impact of an experience or experiences like that on young people like us. And how do we pay it forward? How do we continue to have the experience that we've had and to be able to do this in such a way that we impact other people? So like you, I was also part of a youth program that fundamentally changed my life.
And I'll also say that about the Young Communicators Awards, that it fundamentally changed my life and is one of the reasons I do what I do today. So just a beautiful full circle moment,
Yes.
Abdullah. Let's go back to your upbringing. You are a renowned strategist. What is it about your upbringing that propelled the strategist that we see today?
Sure. So, you often have this perception that there is a view in terms of what success looks like. For me, it was, I went to a really good school out in Mpumalanga, in Nelspruit called Penryn College. And in the bush one day in the middle of a leadership camp that we had, my principal came with a piece of paper and asked whether we'd be interested in participating in a United Nations debating competition. And I then in my head said, I'll miss 2 days of school because I could participate. That decision to miss 2 days of school fundamentally changed my life. I ended up debating nationally and then to New York, as I indicated, sitting at the United Nations in New York, participating amongst thousands of learners. I understood that I have a voice. I figured out that I could speak in public. I came from a family that was very engaged politically, and so we had a worldview, and so that fundamentally changed the way in which I seen the world. I was able to have a voice. I was able to translate what's happening globally into a local context, and so I went down and became a lawyer. Except I realized it's not for me. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it, and then I got involved in becoming a partner in a strategy firm that eventually got bought out by Deloitte. And so that's been my path. It's been a path of detours, of different experiences, but everything has been a learning. It's been a lesson. It's been an experience, and it's something that I've truly enjoyed.
Yeah. Let's go to that theme around a life of detours and experiences. Many young people start out going to university, having this intention and this vision of where they want to take their lives. And then they get into the corporate world, and it's not what they thought it would be. And I say that because I think of your example of you thought you wanted to do law, then you realized it's not for you. How do you pivot? Especially as a young person who's in a career where here you're seeing it, this is not me, it does not align to my purpose, and where do I want to take my life?
It's such a difficult decision, right? I can always, in hindsight, say, this is how you do it. But in reality, if you think about my experience, I didn't have the funding to pay for my university education. So going through university was tough. It meant lots of different things I needed to do to be able to get to fund my education. But it worked out. Then I went to a really good law firm, did my articles, became an attorney, got admitted at the High Court where my parents came and watched. And then to be able to sit back and introspect and say, I am a lawyer. This is what I studied. This is my path. And I just got married that year. Can I go and do something completely different? It was probably one of the most frightening things of my life. And it wasn't that I had this perfect vision that I'm going to run a strategy firm the way I'm doing at the moment, and I'm teaching at business schools. At that time, it was probably the most frightening thing. But I think there was a fire in my belly that said, I don't really feel this. I don't feel that this is for me. And I then identified, I think, three things. And we speak about mentorship. Somebody who can put a mirror up and say, Abdullah, there are other ways to do this. Maybe perhaps you can look at other things that perhaps could be a path for you. I think the second one is we've got to come to appreciate that in 2025, the world is not linear. There are so many people I work with who went down a particular path but understood that maybe there's another destination. And that is being able to be true to yourself. And being true to yourself means understanding yourself. What am I really good at? What drives my passion? What is it that gets that fire in my belly going? What is it that I can do that will have a meaningful impact in society? And if you can start to ask those harder questions earlier on in your career, you're able to identify the pivot points much earlier. And so I often sit with young people and say, don't go and study what your parents say you should be studying. Don't go and study what society thinks is the right thing for you to study. Go and sit back and really think about what matters. Because I think we spend 2 hours having a career conversation and then we go to university. This is the rest of your life, man. And so you've got to spend the time, go and shadow somebody who's in your career path. You might find that it's not the path you want to take. Go and read up about it. Go and think about whether it's the right path for you to be able to take. And then ask these 5 questions. Am I really good at this? Does it feed my passion? Will it have an impact in society? And is it something that will have a meaningful impact and will affect and impact society, but also affect and impact me? And these are deep questions as a young person.
They really are. They're deep, they're hard, they're brave questions.
And they're messy, right?
They're messy.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
And it's scary to go down that path. You mentioned something, Abdullah, about introspecting, asking yourself the big questions. And I know you do a lot of organizational strategy work. Those questions you're asking are now probing the personal strategy work.
Yeah.
How important is it to have a personal strategy for your life?
You know, I was at Harvard Business School in August doing a lecture, and my lecture was actually on one of my lectures was on personal strategy. Because exactly as you put it, right, we are brilliant at country strategy. We're brilliant at company strategy and business unit strategy, but we never talk about personal strategy. And we can take the lessons of strategy and apply them into a personal context. And in fact, we should be spending more time on personal strategy. I often say with my executive teams that I work with, we need to spend time understanding the personal strategy of the executives that are leading this company. Because companies are not balance sheets. They're not coffee shops. They're not buildings. They're not spreadsheets. They're not PowerPoint documents. They're me and you. They're people who wake up every morning and lead the company. And how do we be able to take the lessons of strategy and apply them into the personal context? And I don't think we spend enough time on personal strategy.
Let's talk about your personal strategy, Abdullah. As I said, I probably met you in your early 20s. When you look back now at the trajectory of your career and life, and you've had to do an audit of your personal strategy, how well have you done in meeting your KPIs? And if they are KPIs, what are the KPIs you set for your life? And KPIs, for those who are listening, key performance indicators that you would have set for your life.
So I think, somebody asked me this morning, do you enjoy the work you do? I said, I have fun every single day. And he said, no, it can't be. I said, yes, I do. And I set out to be able to have a portfolio career because I want to do different things. And so I do 4 different things, right? One, I run my strategy firm, The Strategists. We do really cool work in different industries. So whether it's helping a FMCG company increase their market share, or whether it's sitting with the exco of a leading bank, understanding how do they grow internationally, or whether it's sitting with a very interesting medium-sized entrepreneurial firm. This morning, I spent some time with a great hotel chain that does amazing work and really asking them, how do they grow? How do they take the DNA of that business and actually get it to flourish? That means that we take the learnings of strategy and innovation and apply them across different sectors and work with different leaders. So I love doing that. The second is I had a faculty in strategy and digital at the business school Gibbs. I love being in the classroom because I'm able to take what I do in practice and apply it into the discipline of academia, whether it's on executive programs, on our doctoral programs, or on MBA programs. And that's fun, right? Because I'm able to take what I do day to day and apply it with an academic lens into the classroom and to have an impact in terms of the people who sit in my classroom and that I see in terms of their growth. And so that's been fun. And Gibbs has been an incredible part of my life. Thirdly, I sit on a number of boards. I think companies love the fact that the work that I do, they can translate, or I can translate as a non-executive into their company. And then I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm invested in different businesses. A dear friend of mine, Dawood Olga, and I have co-invested in a motor business, and it's grown phenomenally, and he's a great entrepreneur. And so for me, it was always diversification. It's doing a variety of things, but in the variety, there is a golden circle. There's a virtuous cycle in terms of how they feed off each other. So if you think about it, whether it's helping companies build strategy, or sitting on a board, or teaching in a classroom, or contributing as an entrepreneur, they all feed into this objective of creating more competitive, more innovative, more disruptive companies that actually can scale and grow. And the scale and growth means that we can employ more people, we can contribute more to society, and we can have a meaningful impact. So for me, that was important. The second one was to ensure that the work I do has impact, that the work I do fundamentally has an impact on the companies that I work with. And I often say to clients, I want to sit back one day and know that the strategy that we built has been executed, and that I can sit back and say, in some small way, we had an impact in terms of this company growing or scaling or innovating. And so a few weeks ago, a product that we designed with a client came out into market. And it was so cool to see this product in the Sunday Times being executed, because I remember us sitting and coming up with 40 different options of names and colors and products. And now it's there. It's been executed. So that's the second KPI. But the most important one is really to have fun, to be able to know that I took what was a God-given talent in terms of being able to think strategically, the fact that I found that that's where I'm good at, and to be able to use that talent to make a difference, whether it be in a large company, a government, or even a small entrepreneur.
Powerful, powerful. How regularly do you think people should sit and look at their personal strategy? Is it something you do monthly, weekly, quarterly?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to sit back from a personal strategy perspective and ask 3 very important questions. What is it that really matters to me in terms of where I'd like to go through from a life stage perspective? And the the unfortunate perspective we've got in society is that we think everybody wants to grow linear. They want to grow in terms of stages, in terms
climbing
of
the corporate ladder.
Yeah. And not everybody wants to do that, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Some people want to maybe have a portfolio career. And also, it'll change in your life. It will change based on your family dynamics.
Yeah.
It'll change based on your financial circumstances. It'll change based on where you are emotionally, where you are personally in terms of your own life journey.
Yeah.
At a particular time, you maybe want to do more of the hustle. At another time, you maybe want to do more mentorship. And part of that is understanding yourself. And we don't do enough time in understanding the self. Where am I in my life at the moment? And what is it that matters to me? So at a particular time in my life, what mattered was the grit, the hustle, the drive. I'm in a different stage in my life now. For me now, it's about growing a really cool team that can grow with me. It's about shared value. It's about meaningful impact. But it wasn't the case 10 years ago, right? And so you've got to understand self first before you can do that. When you get to that, then you start to say, on a monthly basis, can I sit and connect with myself for an hour or two and really understand, am I going in the direction that purpose sets out, or am I going in the wrong direction? And I often say, think of it as the map and the mirror, as Professor Nick Bernadel says. The map says, where do I want to get to?
Yeah.
The mirror puts the face in front and say, am I going in that space and am I doing the right things to take me there? And they have to coexist, the map and the mirror.
I hear you. Bravest decision you've ever made that has shifted the trajectory of your life.
I think it was leaving legal practice, as we spoke in the beginning, changing career fundamentally. Probably one of the hardest things, one of the most dangerous things or riskiest things I took. But it paid off. Hindsight's a perfect science. But at that time, I probably was very, very afraid.
I hear you. Abdullah, let's talk a bit around the business and the phenomenal work you do. How do you balance it all? Because earlier on you shared you do quite a lot. You are diversified. How do you balance it all?
Yeah. So one of the things I focused on in terms of personal strategy is return on time. We are brilliant at return on capital, return on assets, return on equity, return on investment, but we never focus on time, right? Which is actually the most valuable currency. Really How do we spend our time? And what's the return on the time that I've invested in? And so I have taken a conscious decision that I'm going to do three things. One, I am going to make a number of trade-offs, which means saying no to things that actually don't feed into my personal strategy, that might be cool to do, but I should not be doing. And my team should not be doing. So being very clear in terms of what we as a company do and what we don't do. And so we often say no to things that we are not the best at. And clients will say, but you can do it. No, we can't. That is not the game that we're best at. And personally, I do it as well. I say no to things. I make some trade-offs. That's the first. I think the second one is when I've decided that I'm going to be here with this company, or I'm going to be with you on this really cool conversation, then I must be all in, right? I've got to prep for it. I've got to make sure that I give my time thinking about how I'm going to manage this conversation. So you've got to make the trade-offs on time, and then you have to be all in, right? I find we're in a world where people are giving 10% here, 5% there, 4% there. You're sitting in a meeting and people are not in the meeting, but they're somewhere else.
They're on their phones. They're distracted.
Exactly.
They're thinking of tomorrow, next year.
100%.
Yeah.
And then the third, I often say to my teams, I want to work with people who want to be extraordinary. I think we're in a world of mediocrity, right? Things can fly. You can, be a 60%. I don't want to be that. I want to be extraordinary.
Yeah.
If I'm working on a brief with a banking client, I want to give them my everything. I want to make sure the venue looks great. I want to make sure that the food is aligned. I want to make sure that we think about their world. I want to make sure that I brief the CEO well. And those things matter. I want my team to be extraordinary. I want to be extraordinary, which is the third point.
Yeah.
You have to surround yourself with the people who have the same vision, because a company is not an individual. I'm just one part of a much bigger picture. And I've had the privilege of working with incredible people who are brilliant at what they do.
Yeah. You work with a lot of leaders globally, in South Africa, governments, the list goes on. Abdullah, do you ever get scared? Do you ever get afraid delivering those keynotes, being in those spaces.
Oh.
And how do you override the fear if you do?
So I'm going to say something very cool, right?
Yeah.
So I have an intern who joined me a few months ago.
Yeah.
And in the first week, we met lots of sports stars because we were doing some strategy work for a lot of famous sporting bodies, etc. And I saw her getting very starry-eyed.
Yes.
So I said to her, go to the bathroom, scream as much as you want to scream, and come back in the room and just be a strategist. And once you're screing, go scream in the bathroom. He doesn't hear you screaming.
She was in awe, like, oh my goodness.
And I've come to learn that the leading CEOs, leading government heads of state, celebrities are human beings. They also have their own dreams, their own aspirations. They also want to just connect at an authentic human level. And many have become very close friends, and we connect very regularly because I think with me, they found somebody who doesn't get awestruck and starstruck because I've come to learn that they rely on me to help them from a strategy perspective, to rely on me to be a trusted advisor, to be a trusted voice into the room. And so part of that has been this ability to really connect authentically. But when I was younger, it was very interesting. I'll never forget sitting at the Taj Hotel in Mumbai in India, and I was at a table and Patrice Motsepe was sitting across, Ratan Tata was there, and the president of the country and the prime minister were at the same table. And I remember saying to myself, oh, damn, is this real, right? And so I think having been exposed to that at a younger age helped me to be able to then understand these are human beings.
Yeah. But what is the practice that you are using to anchor yourself? Because Abdullah, in the work that I do as a leadership consultant, working with various organizations, I see it where sometimes people can get lost. They can lose themselves in the promotion, the new role they had, the executive head. I'm a senior leader. I'm what? What anchors you to ensure that you are not swept up with all these opportunities, the platforms that you're in? What's the practice?
Yeah. It's a beautiful question, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the glamour. It's so easy to get caught up in the noise. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype, in the media attention and all of that there. I think for me, it's a firm grounding in faith and in the principles and values around. I think everybody matters, whether you have a C-suite title or whether you're somebody who is unemployed, you matter to me. And that really is important to me. Which is what I think really, if I step back, every single person in the organization, in society matters. And for me, I've got I always say to my team, how you treat people who can't make a difference to you matters the most. Because I find we've become very inauthentic in our relationships, right? We treat somebody based on the fact that they have a certain title or a certain position or a certain net asset value or a certain car they drive. No, everybody is a human being that must be treated with dignity and with respect, right? So that really matters, and it's a value system, right? I think the second one is this ability that once you get to a point and you realize that we all have a common interest in society to live in a fair, equitable society that is prosperous, that starts to change things, right? Because you start to realize we have common objectives in life in terms of what we do. And then the third one is to be surrounded, and I live with I was brought up by my parents and also my uncles and aunts who are parents to me, who always grounded us in terms of you a son first, you a family member first before you have all these titles. And these titles don't, for me, I try and avoid the titles.
Yeah, they don't define who you are.
100%.
I hear you.
So it's interesting, right? I mean, the relationships I love the most are with people who actually don't know what I do and don't know my title, because then it's real, man.
It's real.
I love my childhood friends because we buddies. We can talk about stuff. Because I just, sometimes it's hard when relationships are inauthentic, right? They're not based on just friends. They're based on what you can do for me, and it becomes very transactional, right? And I don't like those kind of relationships.
I want to talk about relationships and community, because as a society, we have gotten a bit isolated.
Yes.
Back in the days where you had this community, one might have the 5,000 Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn connections, but are we really going back to our community? And Abdullah, because you you have such a broad community, but at times these are such authentic connections you have. What have you done to build your community, and why is the community important for you?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking this weekend, and I was chatting to some friends. I went to a wedding, and one of the things I miss is I grew up in a township community in Witbank, and I used to leave home at like 7 a.m. in the morning and come home at 9 p.m. as an 8-year-old boy. I would never be able to do that today. My son would not be able to do that for security reasons, for everything else, right? Because I was part of the community. You would be looked after by the community. I grew up in Emalahleni. If you go there, my kids went back and said, "Dad, this is cool that you grew up in a space like this here," because communities were safe. Family was the community.
So
it's
true.
no more the case, right? Now we're very isolated, right? In terms of my home, my circle, my echo chamber.
Correct.
And so part of that is just to be able to continue to find ways where I can connect at a community level. And so I'm still very active in lots of NGOs and community work, because I feel for me, it gives back and it connects me very authentically with that space. I think the second one, which is so important in terms of what we do, is that we've got to appreciate the very principle, I am because we are. None of us have come here because we studied something. No, you've come here because people grew you up. The community grew you up. Your family grew you up. You were part of a society that believed in you, right? And so we've become too focused on the academic knowledge that I studied X, and so that's why I am who I am. No, yes, that's a part of it, but it's not the only ingredient. And I often say, take a recipe and leave out one ingredient, and the food will not taste the same. You are a multitude of all of the things that make up that recipe, which includes where you grew up, the community, the hard knocks that you had, the roadblocks that you went through, the people that backed you, the people that actually backed you and you didn't know they backed you. And we forget all of those things. And when we become isolated, we actually lose those ingredients because we're no more connected at that level.
So it's about really being intentional about not losing the community, the connections. You mentioned education. I want us to talk about education. So congratulations. You recently graduated with your PhD in strategy, Dr. Abdullah. And I want to find out, what is it that's inspired you to study and be this lifelong learner? What has education unlocked in you?
Sure. I grew up in a home where my parents, always inculcated the importance of education. Both my mom and dad always inculcated that education is the anchor and the backbone. And then my uncles and aunts reinforced it significantly in terms of understanding and appreciating how education becomes the great leveler, right? And so I've always been relentless in terms of reading, in terms of writing, in terms of the pursuit of education. But even the PhD, right? I delayed the PhD. I didn't do it when I was younger. And people would often say, Abdullah, why don't you do your PhD? And I said, the timing will come. And so when the timing was right, I was able to do it in a topic that is dear to my heart, that matters to me, that I do work in, that I teach in. And it was so much more valuable because it was something that I loved and I enjoyed and I appreciated. And so for me, it was education. For me, must be something that is important to you, that you're passionate about, and for me, at the heart of this is the importance of reading and literacy and the ability to share the knowledge that we have that's out there. What I love about the world we live in at the moment is we live in a university of education, right? So one of the things my company does is we do lots of immersive learning. We take executives from one country to another, and it is the most incredible university. I mean, this week we've got an executive team out in Singapore, and they're looking at construction in the Singaporean economy. That's brilliant because it means we can learn from the world we live in. And the world has become smaller in the sense that it's easy to travel, it's easy to get exposure. And so for me, education is formal, but also informal. It is university and school, but it's also what do I learn from others and from travel, from experiences. So that's been big for me.
Yes, so I do know you teach at Gibbs as well. And I want to ask, I might be a bit contentious here around
Sure.
the MBA. I've seen in my circles of friends and even the leaders that I work with, where there's this assumption that if I complete the MBA, it is my ticket for a promotion.
Yeah.
Is that true?
You know, whenever people ask me, Abdullah, should I go and do a master's or should I do an
Yeah.
MBA or should I do a PhD? My first question is why?
Mm.
And it's, Abdullah, I just want to be promoted.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's the wrong reason, man. You've got to answer the question. You are going to invest your time, your focus. Are you doing it for a piece of paper, or are you doing it fundamentally to learn a significant amount, as in the case of an MBA, about general management? That you
Yeah.
want to get a general management qualification at a master's level that teaches you about finance and strategy and innovation and operations, because that has to be it, right? That I am fundamentally investing in myself. And by virtue of the fact that I am investing in myself, I'm going to be all in on the MBA.
Yes.
And then if you do that, then you will grow from a career perspective. But it's not a binary that's the only model, right? It's got to be that your education must be coupled with the holistic aspect as to why are you wanting to do and further your education. So in my case, as I said, I did the PhD when the timing mattered, when I knew that there's an area and a discipline area I want to go deep into, and that was the time, right? And so when I ask the question, it's always, but Abdullah, I just need to get it done. No. I understand you need to get it done, but ask why.
The why.
Why do you want to do it?
Introspect on the bigger why.
Yes.
I hear you, Abdullah. Some rapid fire questions.
Sure, no problem.
A book that's changed your worldview.
So I love the book Playing to Win. I use it a lot in our strategy work. It's a very practice-oriented strategy book that we do. So it's fantastic.
And then a failure that became your greatest teacher.
So I got involved in a business that really didn't work during COVID. It was a very cool travel business, but wrong timing, wrong space, wrong time. The greatest teacher was we were able to use that opportunity to pivot, and the business has grown successfully today.
Oh, powerful. One word that defines your leadership philosophy.
Hopeful.
If strategy were a metaphor, what would it be?
Passion.
What does bravery mean to you?
So bravery for me is, what can I do that will be against the grain? What can I do that would be unorthodox? What can I do that can be disruptive? What can I do that will change the way in which companies see the work they do? And I'm always asking the question, how do we do this in an extraordinary way? How do we do this in a disruptive way? How do we fundamentally challenge the status quo? I think we're in a world where there's too much ordinary, there's too much mediocrity, there's too much, it's okay this way. The fact that you've been doing it this way for the last 10 years does not mean it's the right way. It means it has worked, but it's not the best way to do it. And so for me, it's always, how do we fundamentally disrupt how we do things, the ways in which we do things? And sometimes when I say this, people think it's a whole new product or a whole new service. No, sometimes it's the small stuff. It is, how do you be awesome in how you bring your brand, or how you build your strategy, or how you build a product? And so for me, it's a lot about how do we fundamentally challenge the status quo. In a world of turbulence and disruption, we've got to fundamentally ask the question, how might we do different? And that's what I think about often.
And that is what you are doing. You are brave in my eyes. And I'm deeply grateful for the time I've had for this interview and this conversation with you, Abdullah. Thank you for the work that you do to change lives, to change our country. You are literally a champion of good in South Africa and even globally in the world. Thank you for paying it forward with me, and I will continue to pay it forward to many others. This has been such an insightful, very cool conversation. I appreciate you and appreciate the phenomenal work you do.
Thank you so much for the really kind words. I'm so glad that our worlds have collided, connected again. It's come full circle. But it's also the fact that you do such incredible work as a brilliant entrepreneur. You do amazing work, and I hear this in the market. And part of that is the fact that two of us who come from different communities, connected on a youth program, and today we actually do cool work together, which is fun. So thank you for inviting me, Kefilwe.
Oh, thank you. And that is our Be Brave conversation today with Dr. Abdullah Verachia. What a journey. What a testimony of what it truly takes to be brave, to walk in your intention, knowing your personal strategy at times, the work that we don't do so much of. And I truly hope that through this conversation, you have been ignited to introspect on your life, to be a little bit more braver, to challenge the status quo, to embrace the messiness that comes with this journey. So see you again next time. Cheers, everyone.